When we were all a good deal younger, Christmas time wasn't just a hectic few weeks of dashing from store to store to find the perfect gift for Aunt Flora, or racing the clock to get the holiday cards in the mail before the first of the year. Instead, through the dreamy innocence of a child's eyes, we saw the holiday season as an enchanted and magical time, a time filled with secret whispers, sweet anticipation, and joyful surprises wrapped in glittering silver and scarlet. And for most of us, the bustling excitement of Christmas time was capped by a traditional journey to downtown Cleveland to see the city decked out in her holiday finest.
I remember every year at Christmas time, we lived on the west side, and we used to take the rapid transit downtown, which at that time was called CTS, and we used to go over the Flats area and come through to downtown at the bottom of the terminal, and we'd walk up the terminal to go Christmas shopping, and all the windows would have the little figures moving back and forth and going back and forth and everything. Always the last stop was Higbee's because it had the Twigby shop where the little kids could go in, and they had a whole area we could shop by ourselves. They had a little door there where only small children go in and shop, and we'd go and get our presents wrapped, and we'd take them out, and our parents would never know what we had, and then we'd have like a secret for Christmas to take home.
Higbee's, I might say, used to have this little restaurant, the Silver Grill, on the 10th floor, and it was quite an event for the children to go down there because they used to serve little chicken dinners in stoves.
When we wanted to marvel at a breathtaking Christmas tree, there was only one place to go, and that was the old Sterling Linder store.
Well, the tree at Linder's was just so tremendous because Sterling Linder's, we used to go up to about the 4th or 5th floor and look down on it, and it was so impressive to a little kid. I mean, it was just unbelievable. And the huge ornaments that they had on it were special. They had great big balls and clowns and things like that.
And no downtown Christmas excursion was complete without taking the elevator up to the Winter Wonderland on Halley's 7th floor to pay a visit to Mr. Jingling.
He was a storyteller, and he would tell all these different stories to the little boys and girls, and he would be the key holder, and he would always have this key, this big ring of keys, and he would give it out. He would give the key as a key.
And each year the key was different, and what you could do is take it home and put it on your Christmas tree, and year to year you'd have these memories of going downtown. Dan Burnett is the manager of the Penitentiary Glen Nature Center in the Lake County Metro Parks. For months now, he's been planning a special exhibit that will recreate the Christmas magic of Halley's 7th floor. These window dolls greeted many, many people as they went downtown, and they saw their wonderful, fanciful, decorated holiday windows at Halley's. These windows were actually, they started to design them back in May, and it took them about 6 months to create these windows, and they debuted. They opened up the curtains the day after Thanksgiving, and many children, so that's what I remember, is going downtown and looking up at the window and just imagining what you're going to get for Christmas. The doorman's hat we have is actually from the doorman. His first name was Ernie, and it didn't matter what walk of life you were from, you would always be greeted with a smile by Ernie at Halley's. He would open up the door for you and welcome you to the holiday season. Christmas is what but memories. People used to flock downtown to see Halley's, and the Mr. Jingling character brought people there. And I believe that from the people that came to the exhibit last year, the outpouring of their emotions and their past memories and their stories, people like to keep the past alive. And that's what Christmas is. Christmas is made of memories, no matter how old you are.
I'm Mr. Jingling, how I tingling, keeper of the key. On Halley's 7th floor, we'll be looking for you to turn the key.
Cleveland Memories will continue in a few moments with a look back at the national air races, the old movie houses, and much, much more. But now, take a minute to help make programs like this possible. Call WVIZ with your pledge of financial support.
Well, I grew up in Berea, which was close to the airport, and the pilots would come a week before the air races, which lasted a week, so for 2 weeks. I was just in seventh heaven as these little guys would come buzzing over the house, and they're sounded like a bunch of hornets.
One of the neighbors worked down there. I was very young. And then he would take the children in the neighborhood. We'd get in his old car, and go down there, and we didn't have to pay to get in because he took us where he worked, and oh, it was just fascinating.
The National Air Races. Who can forget the excitement of this annual celebration of speed in the 1930s and 40s? For 1 week every September, we trekked out to the airport and enjoyed the thrills of the world's fastest motorsport. And even when we couldn't afford the price of admission, we still found a way to marvel at the skill and daring of the swashbuckling pilots and their magnificent flying machines.
My mother and dad would pile us in the car, 3 of us, but we didn't go in. We went to some of the bean fields on Engle Road, and we parked the car there, and then we would watch the air races.
When the stands were built in 1929, they were built to accommodate 100,000 people. However, not everyone had the money to come to the airport and be in the stands, and as the racers went over a large part of the west side of Cleveland, people would park in parks or on streets, and many people would rent out their front yards. They would charge a quarter or 50 cents. They also would sell soda pop and hot dogs. Many people rented their homes to the pilots and some of the other people that came here. I talked to a number of people that told me as a boy I had to sleep under the dining room table because my bedroom was rented out to someone.
But it was so incredibly exciting for a 10-year-old. I mean, you had, the cars were all boxy in those days, so streamlined trains and racing planes, that's where all the action was for a little boy. And oh, it was just marvelous watching these things, and of course the photographs of the pilots and the you know, the suave and their helmets and all these things, and oh, they were real heroic.
You know, they posed by the plane, and Roscoe Turner had one of these caps, these leather caps that fit.
Yeah,
remember that?
yeah.
And he had this mustache that I swear was painted on. It was like, you know, or oiled or something. It was a great big thing with handlebars on it, but very dashing, very dashing.
But Roscoe was different from most pilots in that he didn't want to be seen as the average barnstorming pilot, whereas most of them wore their World War I leather flying jackets and just about anything. Roscoe created a uniform for himself. He wore riding breeches, polished boots, a blue tunic, Sam Browning belt, and a cap, and he created his own wings studded with diamonds. So he was well known. The Gilmore Oil Company sponsored him, and he wanted to be even more noticeable, so he purchased this lion cub. Everyone said you couldn't tame a lion cub, but Roscoe in fact did, and he took the lion cub virtually everywhere he went when he was flying for records, including here at the races. And there are many chambermaids that will tell you that they didn't like what the lion did in the hotel rooms. Early on, Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals contacted Roscoe and said, Roscoe, you're up there in the air and you have that safety net of a parachute. Now this poor lion's riding in that airplane with you, and we think the lion should have a parachute. So Roscoe said, okay, we'll get the lion a parachute. And as the lion grew, obviously the parachute had to be renewed, and they made, I believe, 3 or 5 of them to suit the size of the lion.
Roscoe Turner worked hard to maintain his glamorous, dashing image, and he worked just as hard on breaking speed records. Turner is the only 3-time winner of the Thompson Trophy race, a race named for Cleveland's Thompson Products Company, which we know today as TRW. Jimmy Doolittle was another star of the Cleveland National Air Races. He was known not for a flamboyant personality, but for flying a very unusual plane called the GB.
It was called the GB because it was built by the Granville brothers. They had this unique idea of the shape of a falling drop of water being aerodynamically pure. It was tested in a wind tunnel. However, the airplane was not easy to fly. It was considered that only 3 men in this country at that time could successfully fly that airplane. Jimmy went on to win the Shell Speed Dash that year and made quite a name for himself.
The National Air Races brought thrills and excitement into our lives. And just as important, they were a proving ground for American aviators, many of whom went on to help write a chapter in world history.
And these fellas built these airplanes, and they devised all kinds of things that were eventually used during the war. And many of these men went on to become test pilots and designers and help the war effort. Without the national air races, I seriously doubt if we would have had air supremacy in World War II as early as we did.
This was the biggest thing going in those days as far as aviation went. Yes, it was, and it put Cleveland right at the center of it. And it was great for Cleveland. Great for the country. Great for me. I loved it.
Hi, this is Bob Fairmont, School Hope.
Hi, Bob. This is Gene Carroll in Cleveland.
No. What do you say, Gene? How are things in my old hometown?
Well, that's what I'm calling you about. How'd you like to come back to Cleveland and be on a nice TV show that I'm producing for Landmark Farm Bureau Cooperatives? We're going to have some of your friends here and some surprises for you on TV.
No kidding. They got TV in Cleveland now?
Do you remember where you were the day that television came to Cleveland? Think back to December 1947. That's when WEWS-TV signed on as the first television station in Ohio. The first program we were able to watch here in Northeast Ohio was a live broadcast of the annual Cleveland Press Christmas Show with special guest Jimmy Stewart. And that was only the beginning. As the years went by, we began to spend a good deal of time in front of the television set, watching many programs that were produced right here in Cleveland. We enjoyed good conversation with Dorothy Fuldheim on her 1 o'clock club. We tapped our feet in time to the music on polka varieties. We got in shape with Paige Palmer. And we laughed along with our children at the antics of Captain Penny and his sidekick, Jungle Larry. But there was a time not so very long ago when entertainment meant more than settling down for the evening in front of the television set. In the days before TV, we used to hit the